Hello. Today, I really want to delve into things that will help you know what your purpose is. And I'm going to give, a testimony, a little testimony about my own life. And so, because several people don't know that whatever it is that you go through, be it you were raped, mistreated, you lost your dad when you were young, just several things that you go through when you're young and when you're growing up, they are all pieces that define who you are and what you're supposed to give out to the people. And so I'm the only girl out of six boys. So we were seven of us, the only girl, six boys. And I was born from a bishop dad. My dad was a bishop in the Baptist church. I came number six in that family. And so just take a little break and just imagine what was going on in this home. I'm number six, the only girl in the family, and it's a pastor's house, you know. I'm actually writing a book on this, the plight of a pastor's kid, because there were several things that were going on in the home that I won't really go too much into that detail because I just want to draw a thread of how I have packaged most of the things that I went through, and today they've become very helpful to other people. So what used to happen was, would be the ones, my mom and I would be waking up early, like at 4 a.m. And my mom would, taught me the culture, like, as a girl child, you have to wake up early, you have to be the one to do this and all. So from a very, very tender age, I've learned to multitask because I was the only girl. My mom was very, traditional and very lovely woman. But, she really, really emphasized culture that men don't enter the kitchen, men don't do this. And so that is a kind of environment that I grew up from. And of course, being the only girl in that home, it meant that everything that needed to happen at church, it's not, like the today church where you've got all these workers at church. No, it's volunteering. And so most of the times I had to make sure that the church is swept. We've put all those flowers that we were picking along the road, and the church is looking beautiful and all that. At a very tender age, I had to learn how to become a Sunday school teacher and just be of help. So that's the kind of life that I grew up from. But several things were happening in that home. Like I said earlier on, whatever it is that happened when you were growing up, be it you were raped, you lost your dad, something just went wrong, or something was good, whatever it is, I need you to have the positive part of whatever situation, because it is those things that other people are waiting to learn from you. So from a very, very tender age, already I was in the ministry of hospitality. You know what I mean? Because at pastor's house, people come for counseling. People come, some of them just to eat, some of them just to sleep, because maybe they are connecting. Like I remember people from Solwezi, because we were on the Copper Belt in Ghana town specifically. So people would come from Solwezi, but then they are connecting, coming to Lusaka. And that time, because of transport issues, they spent time at our house. So a bit of inconveniencing going on there. But this is what was happening in that home. So from the age of 6, 7, oh, Nellie, can you bring water for the visitors? Can you bring tea for the visitors? This is what was happening. So I would take, some tea or water for the visitors. But whilst I'm there, my parents haven't really stopped having a discussion. Okay, so I became very inquisitive to actually listen to some of the talks that are going on, because it was very interesting. If anything, 99.9% of most of the counseling sessions that were going on with my mom, with my dad, had to do with how bad a man was. Would you want to believe that? It brought mostly women. Actually, it was women who came. Women were coming. And so when I'm pouring tea, I'm pouring very slowly because I want to know where the story is going to. And it had to do with how the husband had beaten her, how the husband was discovered, in some infidelity issues, how the husband had done this, how the husband had done that. I'm like, oh, what is this thing called the husband? What is this thing? Because it's like, I'll look at these young girls, they in the ushering ministry, they're in the choir, doing powerfully well and with big vision. They're looking forward to become this and all. And when they walk the aisle, my dad marries them off. Few months, they've come back to mom, they've come back to dad, they're crying. My husband did this, my husband did that. And so I believed, guess what? I believed that marriage was a place where a woman was pushed into to go and suffer. Because apart from mom and dad, who probably hid some of the things that they were going through, most of the people that came had issues to do with marriage. So from the age of 6, 7, I already started listening to depressing stories, very depressing stories. Because I was young, I think they didn't even take note that I was listening. Well, I was being naughty, but I became very inquisitive. So when a visitor comes and they say, oh, bring water. So I'll take slowly, nicely, and as they are talking, I'm pouring slowly, and I'm listening to those stories. Guess what? It was building my purpose. As much as you can look at it with whichever assessment, my purpose was being built from there because I started now being inquisitive to really find out, what is this animal called marriage? What is this institution? Where did it come from? Which devil brought about this thing called marriage? Because a woman is always crying, a woman is beaten, a man is playing around. I remember very well one of my friends later on, she was not really a friend, but she was in the church. I think she was in grade 9, if I'm not mistaken. She got pregnant by a young boy. They were in the same class, and this boy impregnated her. So I remember one day I discovered that she was not going to school. So I asked my dad, why is she not going to school? And the person, because where we grew up from, it was very easy to know the stories that are going on. But then the guy who was responsible for the pregnancy continued going to school. So that worried me. So I asked my dad, why is it that she's not going to school and the boy is going to school? And what I heard was she was actually dating another girl. That confused me. It really confused me. I couldn't decode what was going on there. And of course, my dad explained, saying, okay, because the girl is pregnant. You know what happened? When she gave birth, within few months, this young girl got married to an elderly widower, like 20, 15, 18 years older than her. I saw this girl losing her shape, losing who she was, losing everything. Before long, she was an old woman. I was like, nah, what is this that I'm seeing? Did God make a woman to suffer? Did God make a woman to be miserable? Because that was the picture. This was what I was observing. And I was like, come on now. Something isn't right here. So something happened. I remember this very well. I was 9 years old. It was a Thursday. A lady came with a cloth covered on her face. She was beaten. Guess what? Guess who beat her up? A leader in the church. He was an elder. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to get this story. I need to really find a way of getting this story. I was young, not a girl, but little did I know that with all that was happening, God was creating a brand. God was building some girl to arise with purpose. And so when I listened to the story, this woman was, had twins, and so she got a cousin from the village who needed to help her look after the twins. But guess what this man did? Was found, having sex with this cousin who came to help, to look after the twins. And the wife, finding out this, landed her to be beaten, and she was beaten. And I'm looking at these two women, my mom and this woman, and I'm like, hello, you need to report this man to the police. Like in my heart, I can't say, but that's what I'm thinking. He needs to be reported. But no, that's not what I'm seeing. So this is Thursday. So on Sunday, we go to church. Guess what I'm doing? I go right in front because I want to really observe. I want to see the remorsefulness of this man who did this act. No. The picture was totally different because this man is playing a tambourine and he's jumping up and down, singing a lamba song, Twababona, Twababona. And he's jumping, and I'm like, come on, aren't you supposed to be sad? Aren't you supposed to be repentant? What is going on? And this man is excited. I mean, this is Thursday when he did that. Okay, Wednesday night when he did that. Thursday, he was being reported to mom. And Sunday, this man is all over the show looking all good, lifting his hands and dancing. And everybody on this side, because men used to sit on this side, women on this other side. And so I'm like, okay, this picture is really exciting because they're so excited. They look like they've got so much life. Okay, I moved to the other side to people that looked like me, the women. Some were pregnant, some were breastfeeding. The very lady who came on Thursday was looking like the cloud had fallen on her. She was sorrowful. She had still this thing covered on her eye because she hadn't yet healed. And there's sadness in this group. There is no life in this group. And I'm like, no, 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 no. These are people that look like me. These are people that are me. Is this what I'll end up being? Come on. I waited for my dad to finish his sermon. Well, my dad was a very good dad. He helped to mentor my life. He was he really stooped to my urge to make me understand things. I remember when he even told me one time that, I'm going to be this great woman. And so he made me to start memorizing the Bible. We will come to that later. But you know what I did? So after, my dad, every time he finished preaching, they used to enter into some, private room with the leaders. This time, naughty me, naughty me. I simply went and I stopped all the elders and I said, excuse me, I need to have a word with my dad. Give me a moment. I was very broken. I remember this day. It was in September. I think it must have been 10th September, if I'm not mistaken. I remember very well. So I went into that room, refused the elders to come in, and I locked the door. And I told my dad, today, because my dad used to perform miracles, I saw some people, walk. I saw the blind see. My dad was a crazy man. May his soul rest in peace. And so I told dad, I said, look, I have seen you perform miracles. I have seen you do powerful things, and you preach that God can do impossible things. Well, today, I need you to tell God to change my sex. I don't want to be a woman. Out of all your children, 6 of them, how on earth would you just make a decision to make me into somebody that will suffer? Somebody who have no life. Somebody who will be beaten. Somebody who will be cheated on. Come on. Today, you will pray to your God. We are not leaving this room until my structure changes into a boy. Well, we took some time there. My dad was such a wise man. I remember him. Even now, when I close my eyes, I remember this incident like it's today. He reached out to an old diary, gave it to me, and got a pen, gave it to me and said, Nellie, I don't understand a woman myself. And I think a woman does not understand herself. The only one who understands a woman is God. So do me a favor, my baby. I want you to start asking God who a woman is, why a woman was born, and what a woman is supposed to do. And everything you are told, please write down. And I would love you to share with me what he says to you. Well, by this time, my dad had already started training me on how to hear the voice of God. It was not too clear, I think, until about the age of 13. I'd given my life to the Lord. This is the time when I can remember most of the things. Well, from 9 to 13, it is very scattered. But I think at the age of 13, I had special encounters with God. This is where this book, this one, The Make of a Real Woman, you will hear more about this book, The Make of a Real Woman. This is where the premise comes from. Because when I started having those conversations, I documented. And most of those conversations that I was having with the Lord are penned down in this book. This is not just a book. This is why it's been named the manual for every woman. The art of manifesting womanhood in marriage and in the marketplace. It is a full package of who a woman is. And that's why I encourage even men to read it, because when you understand a woman, you will know that she's an asset. You won't treat her the way you treat her. But we will come to this book later. And so that's how the journey started. I now started decoding, because at first I hated being a woman because of the picture and the things that I was seeing around me. It was all the young girls, most of the young girls becoming pregnant, and their education came to an end, and getting married to these elderly men. It's like they were just sitting somewhere waiting to see a young girl so that they can end her life. That is the kind of environment I grew up from. And so when I looked at that, I hated being a woman. Well, because I didn't know the power in a woman, and it was a setup. Remember what I told you? Everything that you go through, everything you need to gather. There are tools for your greatness. There are tools. This is why today I help to rescue women. I help to shape their destinies. Because why? I began to understand a woman from God's point of view, not from what she defined herself. Because along the way, through up to the age of 17, I then started understanding that actually, listen to this, actually, a woman was not being abused. A woman abused herself because she did not know who she was. And she gave permission to be abused because she didn't know that she's an asset. And the enemy knows very well the power that God has put in a woman. And these are the things that I began to now contend with. And I think from the age of 16, 17, I began to appreciate my being a woman. Even today, if we were all to die, and God says, what would you want to be born into, a man or a woman? I will lift everything. Everything inside of me, outside of me. I'll say, Lord, I still want to be a woman, because I now discovered the beauty of being a woman. I now discover the power that is in a woman. That is why she's been depressed. That is why she's been oppressed. That is why so much has gone wrong to her, because even the enemy knows that when a woman knows who she is, she's a force to contend with. And those are pieces and nuggets and wisdom and knowledge that I began to gather. Thank God for my dad. Because every time when I never understood anything, I would quickly rush to him and he would help me understand, and I began to package myself. Well, the enemy knew that this girl is coming right dangerously, because when I began to pick up these lessons and these pieces, you have no idea. From the age of 13, I started pitching up crusades. I started having crusades at markets to bring deliverance to a woman. I began to pitch up, everywhere I was going. I wanted a woman to know that there was so much power inside of her. And that is why I started understanding that actually purpose comes first before marriage. Many people don't know this. Now, in this whole package, I then started understanding now how to prepare the man, because even the men didn't know who they were. They didn't know how to win a woman to be a stakeholder. They didn't know that when they married this girl and they build her up, she becomes a strong supporter of the vision. And this is why I also help men to uncover their purpose, to uncover who they are, build their brand, help them to understand the position that they have as men, help them to understand their role. Position and role is not the same. The position of a man and the roles are not the same. And this is where many men have also mixed up, because this is why they begin to pursue money. They think, being a man is about money without understanding their leadership. And I help many men to understand that it's not about providing beef, providing a car, providing this. I tell every man, look here, before you actually start pursuing all these things, You need to understand it is not providing, it is provision. Pro dash vision. Every man must understand that. Many men, they don't know the vision. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they're taking their family. They even adopt another person and they hand over their surname to somebody, but they don't know how to guide that person. And that's where I come in to help the man too, to become that man who is well positioned, because the seed that comes out of him defines the legacy, defines the people that are coming after him. He's the builder of generation. It's a seed out of him. The children carry his name. And so I usually tell ladies to ask a man, please, I don't want just a name. Give me beyond a name, because I've got a name, I've got a maiden name, and so joining you is not about a name. It's not like I'm stranded. It's not like I didn't have a name. And so a man has to also understand that a woman is not just looking for the ring and to be called Mrs. Come on, bring to the table something better than that. It's a provision. You need to seek the Lord to help you find out, why are you here on earth? What is it that you're supposed to bring in as a leader, as a head? Because just you being born into that boy, society and God expects you to be a leader. That is why the headship is not about, you wearing your trousers. It's not because of the gender issue. It is a God-given position, and so you've got to grasp it. You've got to get it. You've got to have the understanding so that you can be that leader. And being a boss and being a leader are two different things. And so these are things that, I've been gathering. And guess what? This is why I had to give this testimony, because most of the things that I'm going to share, they have a backbone to where I'm coming from and who I am. I talk about purpose. I talk about branding. I talk about positioning you to become the authentic you, the best version that you should be. I talk about entrepreneurship and really bringing you to become a captain of industry. I talk about internationalization of your brand so that you can compete at international level, especially in our time. We are in the 4.0. We are in the virtual space. We are in a global village. I tell people to say, look, you cannot remain a local champion. You have to start thinking international. You need to internationalize your brand. And so everyone is born with something. And that something needs to be defined. When it is defined, you add skill, you add expertise, it becomes the brand that will bring wealth. And when it brings wealth, it builds a legacy. When it builds a legacy, you live beyond the tombstone. Shalom, shalom.